Welcome back, Red Spotters! Another show in the Red Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto, joined by my very good friend, also the creator of the Red Spotlight Network and the host of the Fantasy Fair Podcast, Mr. Kyle Andrew Lira. Mr. Lira, how are you doing today?
Quite the resume.
It is. Quite, yeah.
It
is your official title, is it not?
I am the CEO of the Red Spotlight Entertainment Network and all affiliate sister properties. I'm also, host of Fantasy Fair, creator of the Fantasy Fair, and creator of all shows, with the exception of To the Table. That's all Peter. So he gets like 10% royalties out of that.
Which you and I, that's hilarious. You and I will both be on To the Table later this month with Peter.
Yeah, for Feel Good February.
This is the first time you'll be on To the Table in quite some time.
Yeah, it'll definitely be that. So yeah, how are you?
I'm doing fine. You know, it's middle of February, basically almost the end of February now. I know, like, we're getting over that hump. I've been kind of
more like we're leaping.
Yeah,
'cause it's February.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the good news is that there have been more widely available films of a certain caliber that have become available on either streaming services or other methods that I've been able to kind of keep myself on a pretty healthy schedule of things to see. And then I've also been editing the 300th episode, which should be up by the time this is dropped on the Red Spotlight channel, which I hope everyone listened to.
It's definitely happening.
Yeah, we did that almost a week ago, it seemed like, with everybody involved.
Yeah. Along with previous number one fan, David Moreno, David Francisco, sorry. Moreno was there, Alexis Moreno, Peter, and then you and I. The Avengers assembled, and that'll definitely be a treat for those that have been listening for the last couple. A lot of making fun of Peter's.
Everybody, I listened to it back several times. Everybody got their turn in the punching bag chair. It seemed like so.
Was it a podcast episode or was it a roast?
Interesting question. I think that the audience will be the judge of that. Well, let me ask you. Since we're talking about this, how do you feel it went overall?
It went horrible. It went shit. I mean, there were so many things that went wrong. For some mundane reason, a gardener decided to show up, and
wrong episode. That's another episode.
And then you could hear that and all that stuff. I decided that we should play something, and it was called Remake Remedies, and all that stuff. No, I think it went good. I think it went all right. You know, well, as much as all right as it can be, I guess. I mean, the preferred situation would be to be all in one room and do it, but that sounded like something else. But yeah, so that was that. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what happened there. It was muting back and forth on your side for a second.
Yeah, it was just like it because apparently my room is haunted. I don't know if you've listened to the Fantasy Fair a couple of times, but there's been instances, everyone, where like a mysterious figure will appear behind me or something like that, and it's just chaos. So if technical difficulties happen, it's because my room is haunted. So that's entirely besides the point.
So this has happened before then?
It has happened before, and it'll all happen again. But yeah, I think 300 went really well.
Yeah, I think overall I was impressed with the runtime. We kept the conversation underneath 2.5 hours, which I think is a miracle in and of itself, because usually when we involve the entire panel on a podcast, it can easily hit 3 hours.
Mm-hmm. Over 3 hours.
Over 3 hours. I think one of the longest episodes we did was the top 10 of, was it last year that it was 3.5 hours?
2019, maybe?
That's what I meant. We haven't done 2020 yet, so the top 10 of 2019.
Yet? Are you hinting at that? That's further down the pipeline.
Well, how are you along? Are you watching any of the movies from 2020 for the top 10 show that I mean, Peter is insistent on it. To me, it was never a question that we were not going to do it. The only thing that was up for debate,
when we're going to do it.
even then it wasn't a question, because it always ends up falling in the same time of year. Usually we end up doing our top 10 shows around the Oscars, and the Oscars are airing this year in April. I think mid-April.
I mean, we would get it done sooner if we were SAG, and we were given screeners.
No, we have to go out of our way to find these movies. Some of these movies on a yearly basis are very difficult to find, and that's true. And it makes it especially harder because 2020 was a very starved year in terms of the theatrical experience, so there's not much of a catalog to already have in mind for a top 10 show. So I think this would be the most interesting top 10 show we've done, because of you kind of have to scrounge for some scraps to put up a list here. But no, Peter's insistent on it. I think we're still going to do it. At the moment, I'm thinking of April when we're going to do the top 10 show, to give you also the time
to watch. Yeah. My number one film was unfortunately delayed.
Your number one anticipated movie was delayed.
No, the one that was supposed to be on number one. If that's not showing any bias whatsoever. It
most likely would have been your number one. Let's be real. It is James Bond.
It's James Bond. It's Daniel Craig's last outing. I mean, the cards are down. It's a Casino Royale of sorts, and let the sky fall as it may.
Oh shit! Are you okay?
Rona. I'm fine. Just gotta clear the throaty. So, yeah, I think that'll be good.
Yeah, I think so. But overall, I think the 300th show went very well. I was quite happy with the conversations that were being had, and I think everybody really contributed some great insight as well as hilarious stories and moments. And yeah, Kyle, as a matter of fact, is preparing something very special for the intro of the 300th episode. Again, by the time you hear this episode, you would have already heard that one. If we're going in sequential order, this is episode 301. So just to give more attention to it, because it is kind of a milestone, 300 episodes. So all of that.
It shows that either A, we're really dedicated to this project, or B, we have no lives.
I think both can be true at the same time, can you?
Tomato, tomato.
Yeah.
Potato, potato.
Oh, gosh. Well, here we are, and this is episode 301. It's going to be primarily a news show covering our bases on what we have yet to really talk about, and that is trying to see what impact 2020 overall had on streaming, on what box office there was. Of course, we have the latest news in terms of what the industry is deciding to award via the Golden Globes, the Screen Actors Guild, and the Critics' Choice Awards, to give us our first little peek at how the Oscar race is ramping up, as well as Rian Johnson perhaps seemingly still involved in Star Wars, much to the perplexion of many people all around the world. We also have a couple of trailers to discuss, whether it be the Snyder Cut version of Justice League, which is coming up pretty soon on the 17th of March on HBO Max, which of course the team will be covering here on Red Spotlight. Very excited to see whatever the hell that's about.
To me.
yeah, basically. Although we'll have Raya to celebrate your birthday, Mr. Lira, the weekend before anyway, with it also being, around there. And then, of course, we have a trailer for Cruella, starring Emma Stone and Emma Thompson, via Disney, which dropped this morning, the morning that we're recording this, or the morning of the day that we're recording this. We're recording this at night because we don't do mornings anymore. At least I don't do mornings anymore. But I was awake for that trailer, and that was really interesting when that dropped, and we'll be discussing that as well. And Gina Carano,
who?
Yeah. So that's our show today. But before we get into all that, I like to start off with what we saw this week. I have a couple of items that really wasn't encompassed in 1 week. It's really what I saw this month, because I haven't really had the opportunity to actually talk about any of these things that I've seen. Kyle, do you have anything for what we saw this week, or anything you've been watching that you want to talk about?
Not watching, listening.
Okay.
We got the one of my favorite bands in the world, Foo Fighters. They dropped their new album this weekend, or last weekend, of recording, and it's called Medicine at Midnight, and it is downright. It is the most experimental the Foo Fighters have been.
Interesting.
In terms of like their sound, because like you could clearly hear their influences. Like one sounds like a David Bowie song, the other one sounds like an ABBA song. There's one that straight up sounds like Motorhead, so it's like just in different influences, but like it's the most like unique sounding album as a whole within the Foo Fighters discography. They recorded in a haunted house.
Okay.
They recorded in a haunted house, and they set
up... help get the juices flowing.
Yeah, get it creative, They set up like, the bathroom as like a recording, like as like a vocal booth, the kitchen, and just like different things like that. It is great. I've been, as per usual, if I'm really into an album, I tend to like learn some of the songs, out of the thing. And I've so far I've learned how to do Shame and Waiting on a War. I want to learn my favorite song off the record, which is No Son of Mine. And like there's a bunch of like political undertones with some of these things. Like Waiting on a War is about like because he wrote like some of these songs and the trademarks that he has, that Dave, when he set inspirations when Dave Grohl was young, like Shame is about like bearing your sin kind of thing, and it stemmed from a nightmare that he had of like watching a coffin burn when he was a kid. Waiting on a War, because like there was the Persian Gulf War, there was the Vietnam War that was prevalent when he was growing up. I mean, the Cold War, primarily the Cold War, and he was just like saying like, oh, are we gonna go into another world again, another World War III soon? And he was just like saying like the anxieties of that. And so like it's a really good record, nicely political. It's got funky grooves, and it is all that stuff. I mean, this is like one of those that you'll throw on. I mean, he said it himself, Dave Grohl. He said that this is a kind of record that you'll throw on at a party, and it is definitely a party record. And there's a lot of good songs. Cloud Spotter, the Making a Fire. I mean, there's so many different songs that are really good. I've also been listening to another thing. It threw me back to 2008. Holy shit. Taylor Swift is slowly but surely re-releasing her old stuff in order to gain control of her old discography due to political bullshit like that. So
there's a name for that person. It's called Scooter Braun.
Yes. And I prefer not to give him the credit. But she released Love Story, her redone version of Love Story, and goddamn, like I feel like I time traveled listening to that version, because I was just like, she sounds the same. She's like, they're like, her singing the song, if not like finer tuned a little bit in terms of singing, and that just comes with the, you know, age of all that stuff. And I'm like, is this the superior version of Love Story? I don't know. Okay, because like, I don't know if you know this artist, Jojo Levizik. Jojo, yeah.
I've heard of her, yeah.
She had to re-record her old stuff in order to gain control of it, and like, you could obviously tell that she's aged since she's done Boy, It's Been a Little Too Late, you know. But with this one, there's no difference whatsoever. It sounds like you just, did she just call it the new version and just re-released it? But yeah, and apparently like this new album, the Fearless, is gonna be Grammy eligible.
Interesting.
So I think that would be really interesting. Of that stuff. So I just think that is absolutely fantastic. In terms of watching, I've been watching the stuff for Shorts Month, but that's it. On the Fantasy Fair, I've been watching Inside Pixar, and I watched
watching WandaVision. WandaVision, which, by the way, I wish like right now it was like Thursday midnight so we could immediately watch it. But anyway, nevertheless, that's pretty much all I've been doing so far. How about you? Well, interesting you brought up music. There have been a couple of things that I've been doing. I've been slowly updating my theme playlist on Apple Music. I curate that. It's a playlist basically from cinematic sounds, cinematic and television soundtracks for the most part. You and I had gotten together over the couple of days, and you heard a couple bits of Avengers Endgame music that I had in my playlist that wasn't like released with the official soundtrack, that I had kind of like downloaded off elsewhere. So in the spirit of that, I've been going over and picking up some music from some of my favorite shows like S.H.I.E.L.D. and Rebels. It's like Rebels have some tracks. I've
heard of Rebels. What's the other show?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. According to Para Analytics, it was the #1 Marvel show back in 2018. Which, by the way, is the same analytics firm that's being used right now to say that WandaVision is the #1 show in the world. So, curious. Of course, no one's ever heard of it, but there's that. By the way, listen to the WandaVision recap for more information about that. Also, the review of the episode as well. But if you weren't unaware, and you wouldn't be, right, because nobody watched the show or the last season, but Jeff Ward did a cover of Simple Minds' Don't You Forget About Me. If you want to know why, watch the show, obviously. But it was kind of my obsession watching that. It was probably one of the most hilarious moments, and so I downloaded that off and kind of may prefer it to the original. I don't know. It's just a hilarious...
That's sacrilege.
Yeah. I know. It's just a hilariousness of it that got me so excited for it. I also listened to the Taylor Swift... latest redone of Love Story, and it was great. I think her voice has aged wonderfully. You know, I think you bring up an interesting topic there about, you know, how overly criticized many musicians and artists are for the way that their voices age, oftentimes for, I think, really unfounded reasons. I mean, personally, I don't think Elton John was ever the greatest vocalist in the world. and he's since lost his higher register. But I personally think that he still sings pretty great live, especially some of the later tracks. I don't know. Like, you got to work with what you got, right?
Yeah.
And
unfortunately, like there's another artist who's completely lost her voice, and that was Julie Andrews, because she had
Did you ever watch, by the way? I was watching over the weekend. If you go on YouTube, they have archival footage of her being honored with the Kennedy Honors. You know what the Kennedy Honors are? They're in Washington, D.C. And Carol Burnett was there, and a whole bunch of other people that they were honoring her. It was a beautiful little performance that was put on in honor of Julie Andrews when she was there. So I would recommend you, if you were a fan of her, which I'm sure you are, to go watch that. That was a pretty great service that was on. But yeah, she did lose her voice because of vocal nodules, and she had an operation, right?
Yeah, and so like she's no longer able to sing the way she did. You know, the Mary Poppins voice that you heard is no more. But Mary Poppins herself still lives, fortunately.
Adele, I believe, has had vocal surgery twice at this point.
Yeah, but she still reaches that higher register and all that stuff, if not even higher. I remember
the point though overall being is just certain artists who are known for big voices have this high standard to rise up to years and years and years after, and it's unfair, and I wonder how people are going to react to Ariana Grande when she's like 50 years old and her voice is still great, but maybe not as high as it is now.
Honestly, I could see her still doing the end refrain of freaking Dangerous Woman at the high, because like if you recall, Whitney Houston, when she started her career, she was just 18. She was just 18, and like you saw the progression of her career, and even, you know, up until like the end of her life, she was still able to fucking reach those higher registers. So
not all the way though. Not from what I remember. She had a lot of vocal damage because of people attribute it to substance abuse issues. But I remember when that last album came out of Whitney that it was critically panned in some ways, a little harshly so, because part of her voice wasn't what it was, but it was still great. That's the point I'm trying to say, is it's really unreasonable for artists to be able to maintain the same standard when they're aging. Like,
I remember talking about my favorite band, Metallica. They did. I remember they did for the Black Album. It was like a side little cover that they did for a filler of one of their singles, and they did the cover of the song "So What" by the Anti-Nowhere League, and like if you heard the song, you know it. It's pretty grotesque, but just when he first did "So fucking what," he completely damaged his vocal cords, and since then, like when Metallica plays live after the Black Album, they weren't able to perform in standard E anymore. They had to drop D, tune half a step in order to be vocally consistent with their playing. So I mean, it's just what happens.
Kelly Clarkson, I don't know if you heard Kelly Clarkson. She said, I think either it was on her show or when she was giving an interview, she has said that when she's on tour, she drops a couple of octaves on some of her songs because she can't sing that high every single night.
Yeah. Which also it gives a little bit of flavor when you're going on tour, because like, ooh, which key is she going to perform in today? So it gives you a different show every single time. Like, if she performs like "Since You've Been Gone" or something like that, she could perform it in the original tuning, and it'll be a fucking treat. It'll be like, oh my god, it's the same way I heard it back then. So I mean, it's just the way the cookie crumbles in show business, kid. So
yeah, One of the artists that has been the most criticized, I would say, even in the last couple of years, Mariah Carey. Remember that very disastrous performance that happened one New Year's Eve special a couple years back, where you don't remember that? Everybody was talking about it, where it was a lip sync performance. It was outside. It was Times Square. It was like, I don't know how cold it was or whatever, but the whole audio track went completely haywire. Like, she couldn't hear what was going on in the ear, and the whole thing was just completely shut down. And that was a real low point for her in her career. Like, it really affected her to the point where
it didn't carry over.
What didn't carry over?
Making a joke.
I didn't get the joke. What was the joke?
Because her name's Mariah Carey.
That really? That was the joke? Okay.
Continue.
Anyway, that was a real low moment for her. And ever since then, she's been really on the up and up in terms of her commitment to, vocal recovery, and the performances that she's given, the live performances she's given since then have kind of been extraordinary. Like, her voice has basically kind of really recovered. She also, by the way, suffers from vocal nodules as well, which is seemingly a reoccurring issue for many people.
For many singers.
In the industry.
Yeah.
Because just a couple days ago, which is, talking about what we were listening to, she actually did what she calls a late night Valentine's mix of one of her famous hits, We Belong Together. And everyone's going crazy over it. It's actually number 6 right now on the iTunes top 10, which is how popular it is. She even released a 7-minute version of the song, which, dare I say, as somebody who's a big fan of her music, may even be better than the original.
For those who could last that long, bow chicka wow wow.
I believe it was, what's this name? Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody that said once that he pitied somebody's wife if you think that 4 minutes was a long time or something like that.
If you think 6 minutes is a long time, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that was Mike Myers.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been listening to. But there was something else that you mentioned to me. We discussed this off air, but I thought it was really interesting, your thoughts, because you seemed really excited. You were listening to, I believe it was a podcast with Kevin Smith, Chris Marcus, and Steve McFeely.
Yes, I did. It was really interesting. It was interesting to hear the insight, because obviously the thing about...
And to be clear, real quick, for those not aware, Chris Marcus and Steve McFeely are the writers of several Marvel movies, including all the Captain America movies and the last 2 Avengers films. So
yeah. And they did pretty phenomenal in terms of that regard. But the thing that was really interesting is because it's one thing to get a press junket interview with these writers. It's another thing to get a Kevin Smith interview, because he knows his shit.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Some of the most hilarious reactions to Marvel trailers you'll ever see. I'm still thinking of him reacting to that Far From Home trailer and him losing his shit over Mysterio.
Yeah. And then, incorporate the dirty mannerisms that he has as well.
Oh yeah, he's hilarious.
But him knowing his shit when he's talking about Endgame and what have you, it's really interesting because he knows this movie by heart. He didn't just watch a couple of clips and then started interviewing like a lot of big old media conglomerates are. He fucking sat down and he was like, what did you mean about, this line, and
yeah, I bet it must have been finally interesting. You bring up a great point. I think maybe more movie junkets that the press does would be far more interesting, not only from us as an audience, but for the actual actors themselves who are being interviewed to watch and care about if every question wasn't exactly the same. Because honestly, and I feel I think this is a fair criticism of the entertainment press about just regurgitating the exact same questions again and again and making for really boring junket interviews are among the most boring you will ever see. I've even a lot of the late night or talk show questions are just so lame and uninteresting that I don't watch that anymore.
Because the thing is that when they're on late night and all that, it's pretty much studio mandated questions.
Yeah.
You know, and so it leads to less interesting stuff. That's why I'm like more fascinated about like interviews that happen post the movie release, because they actually get to talk about it, because then they're like, okay, you had enough time to see it, we're gonna put a spoiler warning, of course, but we're gonna go and talk about it in this way, you know. And that's why when, you know, leading up to the Endgame and Infinity War, whenever they had the pre shows, they were like, okay, so what happens in this and this? And then, you know, most of the questions would be like, you have to wait and see. You have to wait and see. And I'm like, explain it or get the fuck out of here.
Don't waste my fucking time.
Yeah. Like, wait and see. We're going to see the fucking movie. I mean, come on. Those that are watching are freaking gonna go watch the movies, so freaking explain it to us or not, you know. You
basically just described those panels that Star Wars Celebration would do for the movie that would be coming out that year with like J.J. Abrams or Rian Johnson, where they would all sit there and like they would put on a smile, they would wave at the crowd, and then say nothing the entire time they were there for the hour.
Yeah, they'll be like, okay, for example, hot topic back in the day, Rey's parents. Who are Rey's parents? You have to wait and see. Oh, Finn, do you wake up from the coma, you know, that you were in so and so, and you're like, oh, you have to wait and see. And then like that'll be just the fucking answer, and it's just like, it's irritating because you
learn nothing. You learn nothing. And again, for people, these particular interviews that we're criticizing are meant for the masses, but even then they could be far more interesting. But again, you and I are not the masses. We look for the idiosyncrasies, right? We look for the minutiae, the details,
of these questions, but you pretty much don't get these answers.
No.
And that's why when it was Kevin Smith like talking, I was like, okay, finally somebody who will ask the real fucking questions, you know. And he asked the questions, he answered deep cut things, and he was like, Smart Hulk, when is that gonna be established? And he was like, I think it was McFeely, and he said that, you know, originally we had a scene in the Wakandan fight where he does magically turn into Smart Hulk, but that would completely take away from the character structure of what Bruce Banner is feeling in that movie, so we decided to move it to Endgame. That is a fucking answer. That is something that I you know, you learn something. And like the whole like rest mirror, talking about Pepper and Tony's relationship. I mean, that was a spectacular. It was all in all a great thing. I started actually last night before I haphazardly fell asleep. I started listening to the auto commentary on Endgame, and god damn, like I want to have a podcast where I discuss all that stuff with you. I've
listened to those commentaries several times. Nothing would thrill me more, Mr. Lira, than to do that. I have been beating that drum for years at this point to get the rest of you to listen to the commentaries by the Russos and Marcus and McFeely on those movies. They're great commentaries because of how much detail goes into the thought process of the thought processes of making the big bold choices they make in those films. Like for me, I know that
bold moves, that indeed.
I know, personally speaking, I'm a huge fan of audio commentaries because in the best of circumstances, in movies that, especially that I already love or like a lot, really great commentaries can help really make you or rekindle the passion. They can make you appreciate more or rekindle the passion for what that movie was. And it also just gives you, in the best of circumstances, it may also give you a new lens to view certain choices that were made in that movie by. So no, I would love to do that again.
It's like looking at like a certain like art piece or something like that, and then like, for example, a painting, you know, and then you're like, okay, did you know that somebody carved this piece of the painting with a chisel knife and a pastel. I'm like, no, why did he make that decision? And he's like, because he wanted or he or she wanted the colors to pop out a little bit more in this edge and give that part a bit of character. That is the explanations that you're not wait and see, or, let me talk about something else to distract you, and I mean, because that's pretty much the gist of press junkets, and it fucking sucks. And to have this kind of interview tangible, I think it lends itself, and I appreciate Endgame a whole lot more after listening to that, because there are so many. Here we go. There's so much poetry that, in the rhyming.
Oh my God.
That I find really fascinating. And like, honestly, like it one of the main reasons why I love movies is just.
Well, we can save all those details for that podcast whenever you're ready to have that conversation. Overall, I'm very happy that you are enjoying the conversations and, learning a lot of the details about, what went into making those movies. And so I'm happy about that. And I can't wait to have that conversation with you. Because personally, I think, even though while we're talking about basically an Endgame, the biggest movie of all time, I still feel like in the elitist circles of cinema, it is often dismissed as a carnival ride. And sure, I think that's a legitimate argument, but there are, I think, I personally find it distasteful when you see people who are, such great champions of film really dismiss a lot of what that movie had to offer. Because I really do feel like that film had a great priority and emphasis on the characters, which is why I watched the films. I mean, let me just be real clear with you. Like, and we've had this discussion. Like, the reason why those movies work for me is not because, while cool, Cap, held Mjolnir and was, beating Thanos with it. No, it's moments where he, or Steve Rogers, is picking up his half-broken shield, ready to face off an army. It's, Tony making the final sacrifice. Natasha just breaking down because she misses everybody. It's those moments that I feel make those movies memorable and have weight and meaning.
But also, I could also argue of like the snobs out there. What's wrong with a carnival ride? What's wrong with a fucking carnival ride? I mean, not all movies have to be fucking Citizen Kane. I mean,
not all movies have to be The Lighthouse, which is a film, while I do not like, I respect for what it does, but the point is well made.
Not all movies have to be that. A lot of, like, back in the day, there were, they called it the bread and gladiators, effect, where the people of Rome would go out to the Colosseum and watch the bread and eat their bread and watch gladiators fight. It's lowbrow entertainment, very lowbrow. Even some of the emperors have declared it lowbrow entertainment. But guess what? It draws the masses. And It's a good time to escape whatever is going on historically in the world, such as unfair justice or anything like that. And honestly, we needed a movie, especially in 2019, where the good guys win, like unlike 2018 where we got Infinity War where everybody fucking lost. Because like if you look at, historically, Endgame was one of those movies where you just kind of needed a win. You needed a win. And honestly, I don't think that we're going to get a movie like Avengers Endgame anytime soon. At least not in our lifetime.
Right. Well, I mean, it makes it all the more special, right? And I would hope you're wrong to some extent, because I want to live to see something that big again. But who knows if that will ever happen with that situation. But it's also important to note, not to dwell too much on this, but to note where that stems from, right? This knee-jerk reaction to dismiss and push down. I don't disagree with the snobs or the elitists in terms of the annoyances that are common with many Marvel fans. Like, Lord knows with WandaVision how many bad takes we've seen just when they try and do a little bit different.
Okay, so what you're arguing is that you're not upset at the product, you're upset at the byproduct.
Oh, well, sure. I mean, that's always my issue. Is like I pay close attention to, certain circles and the kind of groups of thought that come out of certain circles. I can both be a little bit annoyed with the quote-unquote film snobs for treating movies like Endgame as if they belong in a lower tier and should not be taken seriously, while at the same time, I can also be annoyed with the fans of the Marvel movies for really having, in my view, and this is where I can come off as pretentious or a snob, but having a very polarized and one-sided palette in terms of their taste in film. We've seen several things over the last couple of weeks that suggests that a lot of people who watch Marvel movies don't necessarily venture out and see anything else. And to the credit of the film snobs that I just mentioned, there is a certain sense of threat that the Marvel movies bring, and that is with audiences that are up and coming are only seemingly interested in the variety of blockbusters and not in any of the big character pieces that are with some of the other auteurs of the industry. And that's a fair point. I'm not saying it's one side or the other.
And I'm not making excuses for people that only go see these films. But, like, what would you rather go see? A guaranteed good movie, a guaranteed good time, or would you rather take a risk and see an art piece that
people are very adverse to risks? People are very adverse to risks. I think a part of what's been lost on the conversation in the last couple of years is this seemingly monolithic worship by general audience goers in terms of how much stock they put in things like Rotten Tomatoes, which is seemingly, it's just an aggregator of how many positive or negative reviews a movie has. It in no way represents the quality of or the standard of what a film has to offer. But a lot of people do look at that and as like a barometer for what movies to see and what movies to avoid.
Right.
Which is unfortunate to an extent. It's a really complicated conversation.
But like, I've fallen victim to that as well. I look at the Rotten Tomatoes thing, and I'm like, oh, should I watch it? Or should I not? I mean, there's like,
the running joke was, the running joke on me in the earlier days of the podcast was that, I only go watch movies that are deemed good.
That are on the Oscar ballot and being talked about during award season.
Awards.
Thanks, Maura.
My favorite season.
But yeah, I mean, we could go on forever about this topic. I mean, God knows we have, in the past, and yeah. I'm of the mind that, I like what I see.
Yeah.
I like what I see, and if I like it, if it captures my imagination, then I'll watch it. And if it doesn't, then I'm not gonna give it the time or day. But that's like with any other art that comes, in my vision, even though my vision is not always the best.
How do you feel about overly silly films, or what some would qualify or classify as stupid movies? Think of the Will Ferrell variety. Do those movies pique your interest?
So, okay, put on a Ron Burgundy, and I wouldn't give it the time of day. Give me a Land of the Lost.
Really?
Fuck me up with some of that shit, because like it's so bombastically creative.
Have you seen Eurovision?
No, I've seen WandaVision.
Eurovision was the latest Will Ferrell. Yes, I get the joke. I should have
with it was with Rachel McAdams, right?
Yes.
No, I have not.
Yeah, it wasn't great. It had its moments, but overall it kind of faltered. But there were some moments that were fun. The reason I asked the question is because there is a movie that is of that variety that is actually getting a lot of notoriety among the people who I just described as film snobs. They're going crazy over this. I saw tweets from Edgar Wright and Guillermo del Toro praising this self-aware stupid film. Do you know what I'm talking about? Oh boy, man. Oh my god. This movie, I think, is capturing the imagination in the weirdest way possible. I have to tell you what this is actually about here. So the movie is called Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. Oh, with the new Kristen Wiig movie. Yes.
Okay.
Kristen Wiig and Annie Mumolo.
Okay. What? A general synopsis. Why that movie?
So the synopsis is the story of best friends Barb and Star who leave their small Midwestern town for the first time to go on a vacation in Vista Del Mar, Florida, where they soon find themselves tangled up in adventure, love, and other things that I won't say because they're a bit spoilery. Apparently this is kind of a reunion of Bridesmaids with both Kristen Wiig and Annie Mumolo. It is hilarious. I was so charmed by this movie that I watched it twice.
Back to back?
Basically, one not back to back, but like took a couple hours break, like a day in between, for the most part. It is silly. It is also absurd. Think of absurdist humor. It is filled with perhaps some of the most hilarious cameos you could possibly imagine. No one is saying it's the best movie ever, but it is such a breath of fresh air. It is simply delightful. And it also, to the credit of some, because it hasn't been overwhelmingly praised, but it can be one of those films where either you're with it in the first 5 minutes or you're not with it.
The way that it's sounding like, with a lot of critics, because I know what you're talking about. I thought it was a completely different thing because you mentioned like the Will Ferrell variety, and I was like, oh, okay. So that caught me off guard a little bit. But I think the reason, a big part of why people will be interested in something like that is the same way a lot of people are all gung-ho about Mamma Mia. Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia 2. Here we go again. Which I don't... Come on, guys. It's fucking ABBA.
It's a full-blown comedy. And I think we need a couple more comedies in this day and age, don't you?
Yeah, I think because like drama, it's just a dime a dozen, but like comedy, a good comedy, that's the most rare. And I think comedy should be like rated as a high art for it to be universally loved.
I have here the tweet by Guillermo del Toro. I want to read this to you. This is what he said. Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar. I absolutely loved it. A Romy and Michelle via Top Secret or Airplane kind of zany, baroque, and vigorous comedy about life-affirming friendship, sexual romps, and culottes. The central performances are perfect. Jamie Dornan in this, by the way. Jamie Dornan from the movie, I believe he had a couple episodes on Once Upon a Time.
And 50 Shades of Grey.
Crevices in my mind, I brought that up. And 50 Shades of Grey. He's never really made an impression on me as an actor. Like, he always just came off as, like, very wooden or, like...
Until now.
He is a revelation in this. This is what I remember first seeing Chris Hemsworth in Ghostbusters feels like. Like, maybe comedy is his future, because he was outstanding in this.
I think also I think like goes like a little bit off tangent here. I mean we've been 52 minutes into off tangent.
Everything's an off tangent.
But I think because of Ghostbusters, I think Chris Hemsworth has been like getting more development in the MCU and all that stuff. So I really gotta think Ghostbusters.
It's like it took Ghostbusters for people to realize, oh wait a minute, Hemsworth can kind of be funny.
Yeah, and he like Thor Ragnarok. Holy shit! Like he busted out his acting chops in terms of like humor and all that, and then it led into Infinity War. It was like she's the daughter of Thanos, and she's like, I know relatives could be,
I have a tweet here by Dana. Schwartz. And she may be correct here. She says Jamie Dornan is sexier in Barb and Star than he is in all 3 50 Shades movies. That's some shade right there.
Shade? You're starting to think like me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Edgar Wright, he's a beloved personality director here on our podcast. He says, the marketing buried the lead on Barb and Star, not mentioning that it is epically silly on an Anchorman or Austin Powers scale. Kristen Wiig and Annie Mumolo clearly having a riot with lots of left of center laughs. A special shout out to Kermit's legs. Oh yeah, that was a joke. There was a cameo by Kermit the Frog somewhere. So, in fact, somebody actually, I think it may have been Chris Evangelista, who said that this movie was like a Muppets movie, but instead of Muppets, it's actual people.
Were they moving right along?
They were.
Moving right along. Yeah. I have to check it out. Where's it available?
Right now it's PVOD. $20 to rent, or you can access it for free through other. I'll hook you up with Jack Sparrow. I think he can give you a link to see it if you know what I'm saying.
Okay. Wait a minute.
Yes.
I am Captain Jack Sparrow. The one, the only.
Oh
my god. Speaking of listening to, I listened to the fucking like expanded soundtrack of Dead Man's Chest. Holy shit. Like Hans Zimmer, he's great. Fucking phenomenon. Like honestly, like there's 2 composers that I think are like the best in the business right now. John Williams, obviously, but also Hans Zimmer. I respect Hans Zimmer so much in terms of being a composer and all that stuff. Brilliant. Chef's kiss. The Jack Sparrow theme, it just like it takes you on a ride and it feels very much like the character, like there are like key changes where you don't expect it to, and it's brilliant. It's a brilliant song and all that stuff. But anyway, continue.
Another movie that I'm actually very enthusiastic about and actually flat out love. Now, this is an actual 2020 release that was a Sundance Film Festival premiere, but wasn't actually available on PVOD until later that year. This movie comes to us by Emerald Fennell. She, I believe, was a showrunner for one of the seasons on the show Killing Eve, and she's also an actor who played Camilla on The Crown, which Alexis and I have been reviewing on Red Spotlight. But Emerald Fennell, this is her first feature. She wrote this and she directed this, and the movie is called Promising Young Woman with Carey Mulligan.
Oh, I've heard of this. I heard of it. Okay. All right.
I fucking love this movie. It is, and let's be clear about this. This is not the feel-good comedy that, let's say, Barb and Star was. Think dark comedy here. I think this is kind of the perfect movie for the times, in so much. But the performances are great. It gives you. There were certain sequences in this movie that I think are comparable to Parasite, in the sense that when you're watching Parasite, the film takes a turn somewhere and you're completely mind blown about and it reveals to you what this movie actually is. I'm not going to say more. It's better to go in cold with this film, but I feel very strongly that this may be my number 2 favorite movie of 2020.
Wow.
It was spectacular. Again, to be fair, though, it has gotten mixed reaction. Most of the reaction has been positive from what I've seen, but some people are a little lukewarm on the ending of it. I think your mileage may vary in terms of how you feel about that. But
okay.
That is also available on PVOD, or you can just call Jack Sparrow and he can give you a link to that one as well.
There should be a captain in there somewhere.
Yes, Captain Jack Sparrow. No, but that one was, oh my God, it was pretty great. I have another one here, Sound of Metal, currently streaming on Amazon Prime with Riz Ahmed. Paul, see, it's pronounced several different ways. It's Riz Ahmed, right? That's how I usually pronounce it. Some others, I think it was, who was it? It was some other person that they pronounced it Riz Ahmed. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but I don't know.
The safer way is Ahmed.
Riz Ahmed. Okay. Sound of Metal is really, really good. And it's also really, really sad. This is a story about somebody who was losing their hearing or had flat out lost it. This is a musician, a drummer, first and foremost. And the film follows him as he is trying to adapt to that. So it's not in any way at all a feel-good kind of movie, but it is a very, very good film. Riz Ahmed breaks your heart. It has an ending, though, that is pitch perfect. Pitch perfect. But it's a very strong film. I don't know how much love it's going to get from the Oscars. I know Riz Ahmed will be nominated for Best Actor, as he should. But overall, I like the film very much, and you can watch it on Amazon Prime. I think, Kyle, you're interested in watching this movie as well.
Yeah, I'm very much interested in it. It got resounding, and I think like there was a press junket that was hosted by Lars Ulrich of Metallica. And he interviewed Riz Ahmed because Lars is, for those who don't know, he's the drummer of Metallica. So like drummer and getting that perspective, I think that's really interesting. But yeah, I mean a musician losing their hearing. I mean nothing more is a devastating blow to that. You know, because you kind of need your ears for music, and to lose it is like, that's a devastating blow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
sad film. Let's see what's here that's less sad. We'll get even sadder. The Father, with Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman.
You know,
Yes.
that movie is good, but it's not as good as The Mother with
Or The Wife.
the wife, the son, the daughter.
You are aware about the subject matter of this film, are you?
No, I when it comes to these kind of movies, I like to tend to keep it cold.
This may hit home for you. This may hit home for many. I know Chris Tuckman, I believe he mentioned this was his favorite movie of 2020 in large part because his grandfather suffered through dementia. And Anthony Hopkins perhaps gives one of the best performances ever. He will break your heart. He will make you cry. I love Chadwick Boseman. This may be controversial, but I would probably prefer if Anthony Hopkins wins because I think that performance was earth-shattering.
He and the last chance that Chadwick would have to win too.
I'm not an Oscar voter, so you don't have to worry about that. But I'm just saying, hey, I usually like to look at it through the lens of what was the best performance, not who do I like the best, which is a distinction between how the Oscars actually award, who actually wins these things.
Mm-hmm.
But Hopkins will devastate you, and it's not just a performance, but the film is also great as well, because the film actually gives you an inside look to the mind of people who are suffering through that disease, and you are as lost and as confused as Hopkins is. So yeah, that one may hit home for some people, but it is a great film nonetheless. One of my favorites of the year. Another great one, and this comes from actor turned director Regina King, who just won an Emmy last year for Watchmen. One Night in Miami, currently streaming on Amazon Prime. This is think of Fences. I haven't seen Fences, but that one was with Viola Davis and Denzel Washington. That was an adaptation of a play. So is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and I believe so is One Night in Miami. And it does have a similar feeling of it feeling stagey or theatrical, which I don't mind. I personally like that, but just so it's out there. But what I think makes this, what it sets it apart from films like Ma Rainey is there's a lot of material actually on its mind about what it wants to say. It's using this event, or this fictional event at a particular point in time. I don't want to say too much about it, because it's best to just watch it for yourself and just really absorb what the movie is trying to throw at you. But needless to say, it is filled with really interesting and captivating conversations. So yeah, Leslie Odom Jr., by the way, who does an amazing job here as Sam Cooke, is actually in contention to win an Oscar this year for that performance. But that isn't to say nothing less of his co-stars. They're all pretty phenomenal in this movie, and a great debut by Regina King as well. So definitely I would say this is a must-watch for the year. And I mentioned this, I'll go ahead and I'll address it. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I know it's getting a lot of love from the guilds. I personally was left rather cold by the film. It really didn't make much of an impact. It unfortunately did not grab me the way that I would have liked. I'm still really struggling with what Kyle? Don't, you dirty mind. Okay. I'm still grappling with what the overall point of the movie was. There is no denying, of course, the Oscar caliber performances of Viola Davis as well as Chadwick Boseman. But overall, as a cohesive piece, it didn't come together for me. Maybe I'll watch it again, maybe it'll get better, but overall, it didn't really land. Soul, I watched again, and I liked a lot better. To be clear, I liked the film a lot the first time. I just didn't love it.
He fucking hated it.
Oh my god.
Just kidding. Continue.
No, but I watched it again, and you know what? Fuck it. I think the film's perfect. That sequence where Joe is, playing the piano right before he heads back into the astral plane to help 22 in the third act, but he is recounting just the moments that he was alive. The silence of it, the score, the beautiful imagery just brought me to tears. Like, everything with the film is trying to say, I think, is pretty clear, and I think some were left a little shocked about how simple the film ended up being, which, I don't know, I think to me, the more I'm warming up to the film in the sense that it is a very simple message, but I don't know what better a job it could have done, really, to do what it actually did. I know that there are some discrepancies that people have in terms of the ending, whether or not, it takes away from the overall impact of it. But It's a beautiful film. And so far, it remains my favorite movie of 2020. Again, that isn't saying much, but there it is.
Spoilers to the list, my dude.
I'm not finished. I have other movies to see, so who knows? Maybe Sonic the Hedgehog will be in my number one favorite movie of the year.
It won't be.
It won't. It won't.
He's like, forget everybody on the ballot. Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik is the way to go.
I feel it should be Elizabeth Moss for The Invisible Man.
Ooh, yeah.
That one should be it. Another one of these movies, News of the World, directed by Paul Greengrass, who did Captain Phillips, reteaming here with Tom Hanks. It's okay. It's a dad movie. It's cool. It's one of those films that you'd catch on TV, on TBS or something.
With your dad.
It's good. It's good. It's just good, though. It didn't really catch my fancy in that way. But it is a good film. Another one of these that is also good, but has some pretty clear deficiencies that I just happened to watch, by the way, was Birds of Prey. Yeah.
The Fabulous Emancipation of one Miss Harley Quinn.
What a title. They should have just called this movie Harley Quinn. But, yeah. I liked it. It was a lot of fun. What this movie really did for me is solidified how great Margot Robbie is in that role. And while the film overall, look, I think it was much better than Suicide Squad. However, Suicide Squad, that's right. Shout out to Peter Martinez.
Heyo.
Yeah. I think the film was better than Suicide Squad, but it also had some of the similar issues. I think the biggest thing that it suffers from is its lack of characterization among the other Birds of Prey team members. They weren't really all that fleshed out, which is unfortunate. But the dynamic is fun, and there's some really hilarious moments. I know that there was this one instance where Harley Quinn is kind of she's trapped. She has several different adversaries who are approaching her. And by the way, she narrates the film, which makes it a little bit more humorous. And she was saying how she had to devise a really precise calculation to get out of this mess. And then it cuts to Harley taking a trash bag and then throwing it at somebody and then causing a chaos of things falling on top of other people and then her getting away, which is perfect for her. There's this sequence where she has this breakfast sandwich and then she drops it on the floor and then she yells at somebody, "You killed my sandwich." Margot Robbie's amazing in that role, and it makes me excited to have somebody like James Gunn, who is all about characterization, finally do something great with her in the upcoming Suicide Squad film.
Yeah. I'm excited for it too. Yeah. Ditto.
Did you watch Birds of Prey?
A while ago, yeah.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I don't know why we never talked about it. Corona?
As with everything.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the films that I've watched. And I'm hoping that some of these I can talk about in a little bit more detail with as the weeks go by. I know we'll be talking about shortly pretty soon about Judas and the Black Messiah, as well as other movies as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get into some of the news topics that we have here. A lot of this is just carryover from 2020, right? Mm-hmm. And this is just stuff that we do every year on an annual basis, but because other things happened that kind of derailed us, we didn't get to mention this, but here we are. I'm going to go over the box office of 2020, as lackluster as it is, and I'm going to reveal to you what were the top 10 highest grossing movies at the domestic box office, which I find to be hilarious. the historians are going to be looking at this year like, what the fuck happened that
Number
year?
1 will surprise you.
So I'm going to go from 10 to number 1. At number 10 is Wonder Woman 1984. Mm-hmm. At number 9 is The Croods, A New Age. A lot of people really enjoyed that film, it seems. Or they must have really liked the first movie. But in the middle of a pandemic, while having a simultaneous PVOD release, and it's still doing better than Wonder Woman, that's interesting. Number 8, Tenet. For all the huff and, all of the huffing and puffing that Nolan did about, getting his movie out there, it only managed to get the 8th spot on this list. Oh well. At number 7 is Onward, which
hold on. Onward beating Tenet.
Beating Wonder Woman.
Beating what? It is just that's the cherry on top for me.
At least it gets something. I always feel so bad for that film. It never got the chance to actually have a theatrical run because I believe it was released the week Corona was released as well. So it was a trying time, that's for sure. But you know what? I hope I'm glad to see, as I believe the numbers will show in an upcoming chart that I have here, that it has not been forgotten, at least. Number 6, The Call of the Wild with Harrison Ford. Okay. At number 5, The Invisible Man, which we just mentioned with Elizabeth Moss. It is a great film. Watch the movie. It's great. And if I'm not mistaken, was this or was it Onward that was the last time we went to a movie theater, Kyle? Was it Onward?
It was Onward.
It was Onward, okay.
Because I remember 3 days after that, it was like, well, everything's shutting down.
I also have Doolittle at number 4.
Fucking weird.
With Robert Downey Jr. That movie was trashed. How did it make that much money?
Robert Downey Jr., I guess.
At number 3, Birds of Prey, which we just mentioned. At number 2, Sonic the Hedgehog. Did you watch that yet?
No. I was never... Okay, if it was the reverse and it was like a Mario or something like that, I would have been, my tickets would have been there, I would have been first in line. And I was never really a big Sonic fan. I mean, I know I've played the games before, but I was never really into Sonic. I was like, oh my God, I gotta play the new Sonic. I'm more of a Nintendo guy more than a Sega guy. So, but I saw the trailers and the trailers kept me entertained.
Yeah, it did very well for itself, and it had its theatrical release was mostly done before Corona hit, so that's interesting. The number 1 movie of the year. Who would have thunk it, Kyle? Who would have thunk it? Bad Boys for Life.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? Honestly, that is the funniest thing ever. You could put that in a thumbnail, and it says, top 10 grossing films, number 1 will surprise you, kind of thing. And it's so bizarre because these Bad Boys, I mean, it's not like it was the most clamored franchise in the world, but yet it still was number 1 of the year. Even with Corona withstanding, I think that's pretty funny of everything like that. Am I disappointed it beat stuff like Onward and stuff? Yeah, absolutely. But like, still, it's pretty.
It also wasn't fair because, you know, these movies, I think Bad Boys came out like the first week in January or something.
Yeah, so it had time to have its theatrical run versus a lot of these other films probably didn't. So yeah.
By the way, for comparison's sake, I have here a list of the top 10 grossing movies of 2019 to compare this list to. So
Okay.
here they are. Ready? So at number 10, It Chapter 2. At number 9, it's the Joker, baby. Joker. At number 8, Aladdin. At number 9, excuse me. At number 7, going in the wrong order. At number 7, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
What's that? I've never heard of it.
I don't know. At number 6, Spider-Man Far From Home. At number 5, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel made more than Spider-Man? That's interesting. 5.
Why
number
are you mad that a woman
Oh
film
my god.
made more than the man-led film?
Oh Jesus. Number 4 is Frozen 2. At number 3, you know what? I think this particular list that I am reading off is not particularly well dated. Forget what I just said about that. Because that doesn't seem right to me. At least if I remember correctly. 2019. Yeah, here it is. Well, domestic is strange.
He's
I'll just
upset
read off to you.
that the woman movie made more than the man movie. That's right. Not all is right in the world. You're like, wait a minute.
Okay, I have it here. Number 10 was Jumanji: The Next Level. Number 9 was Joker. Number 8 was Aladdin. Number 7 was Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 6 was Captain Marvel. Number 5 was Toy Story 4. Number 4 was Frozen 2. Number 3 was Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. This is domestic gross. Okay. At number 2 was The Lion King, and number 1 was Avengers Endgame. This is why I was being confused, because this is domestic. I'm more familiar with the worldwide numbers, and I do know for a fact Frozen 2 kicked Rise of Skywalker's ass, at least at the worldwide level. So there's that. Just for comparison's sake of like how that list was to what this list was.
Because like typical Americans of us, we don't count the we don't count the rest of the world. Isn't that crazy and so like egotistical of the numbers that there's a domestic and worldwide?
Can't say I'm surprised though. I also have here. This is the first time we're going to have any kind of a streaming chart. Nielsen has in the last year transitioned into doing some charts for streaming and to see what was popular. Again, to be fair, every particular firm has their own criteria for how to measure this, so take this with a grain of salt. This is what Nielsen says were the top 10 original programs that were streamed in 2020, as well as the top 10 movies that were streamed as well. Now, for the original series, all but one of them are on Netflix, and here they are. At number 1 was Ozark. At number 2 was Lucifer. At number 3 was The Crown. Number 4, Tiger King. Number 5, The Mandalorian. Number 6, The Umbrella Academy. Number 7, The Great British Baking Show. Okay. At number 8, Boss Baby Back in Business.
Nice.
Okay. Number 9, Longmire, and number 10, You. This is a weird list, isn't it?
It's a great list. Boss Baby.
Back in Business.
But yeah, I think it's nice. I think it's really nice.
Again, I didn't count the acquired series. If you're going to count the shows that were not original programs, and The Office was the number one streaming show on Netflix. It no longer is on Netflix, but it was The Office. So for feature films, this is the chart where Disney Plus is dominating completely. So Frozen 2 was the number one streamed film of the year. At number 2 was Moana, seemingly very, very popular. At number 3, I believe this is on Netflix, The Secret Life of Pets 2. I find that strange. Was that movie that rewatchable? I never even watched the first Secret Life of Pets.
I guess it was.
At number 4, Onward, number 4th streamed movie of the year. That's great for them. At number 5, this is disappointing. Dr. Seuss's The Grinch. That's the Benedict Cumberbatch elimination movie. At number 6, Hamilton, which made its big debut July in 2020. Number 7, Spencer Confidential. I've never heard of this. Do you know what this is?
It's with Mark Wahlberg and Post Malone, I think.
Huh. I don't know. At number 8, Aladdin. I think this is the remake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At number 9, Toy Story 4. That's interesting. I didn't know that movie was that well liked. At number 10, Zootopia. So I think this right here really tells you why it is that Disney Plus has, what do they say now, 95, 96 million subscribers?
Yeah, and also like that according to the recent Q1 meeting, Disney has a rich library, and plus we're in a pandemic, and let's face it, parents really don't want to be watching their kids, so they'd rather their kids be watching something else. So they just like, here, Disney Plus. What's the first title that pops up? Oh, Frozen 2. Click. Watch it, kids. So none of this is surprising. Most of these are children's films, with the exception of Spencer. And yeah. And not many parents like their kids anyway.
Oh, shit.
So they'd rather have something else babysit them for a little bit while mommy and daddy sneak their secret juice.
But I think that's really indicative. I think if you're really trying to explain what makes up the bulk of those 96 million subscribers, this is where it is. Like, Disney Plus is seemingly getting off scot-free in terms of its very low output of original programming, and it's pretty much just banking on its library. Which, in large part is why we all suspected they put down $75 billion to acquire Fox, which still has not all of it has been put on Disney Plus. I know that the Star app that's going to be launched in the Latin markets this year is going to be the first integration of that. But do you imagine at some point we are going to get that library on Disney Plus? Right?
Yeah, because like yesterday during the Investors Day, they were like, we'll have a version of Star integrated within the North American markets.
Do you think they mean Hulu?
I don't know. Maybe they might morph Hulu and Disney Plus into one.
That could also be a possibility, since they now basically own all of it. All of Hulu anyway, the controlling interest of it. I just wondered what happened to those rumors of introducing a pass code to access the adult content on Disney Plus.
As far as I'm concerned, that's probably going to be true.
Yeah.
But other than that, I have no idea. We'll ask Moreno. She knows the she knows the in and outs about that.
Yeah, since she is, of course, a Disney high priestess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we move off of this, I have to ask this question because you haven't had the chance to comment on this. First of all, what did you make of the Raya trailer, Raya and the Last Dragon?
Interesting. Like it felt like DreamWorks, but in the best way, kind of thing. And like honestly, like this is the kind of content that Disney needs because they're thinking outside the box. It's stepping away from the standard Disney thing, and honestly, the movie feels expensive. It looks nice. It looks great. I'm looking forward to see what kind of dynamic Awkwafina and Kelly Marie Tran have. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm not interested. I don't know. I have to see the way the movie plays out with the dragon turning human. Not particularly fond of that. I was hoping that we'd have just a kick-ass fucking dragon that just so happens to be voiced by Awkwafina. I was like looking forward to that, but I don't know. I have to see the movie to find out what I really feel about it.
Yeah, and that's fast approaching, it seems, because Raya and the Last Dragon is going to have a theatrical release March the 5th, as well as a Disney Premiere Access
on the same day,
premium on Disney Plus. I have to ask this question. So they're trying it again. They're trying the Disney Premiere Access again. This is the only movie that they've so far have confirmed is getting the Premiere Access treatment, and it's still going to be $30. It's still going to be $30 to access this movie as it was with Mulan. And I often feel, I think I've discussed this with Peter and with David, that the huge price point was part of the reason, if not almost the reason, why Mulan didn't work in the first place.
I think there's other reasons at play as well.
Well, there were, but the price point is a big one.
At a great balance. They were like, okay, for the price of $30, we're not getting the original songs. We're not getting the original plot points. We're not getting a shot-for-shot remake of Mulan. Why are we going to pay $30 for that? So I can see the average Disney fan thinking that, of course. But I also have to feel that families thought that the $30 price point was just too much for any movie. Right? Like, because they're not looking at it from the perspective of, oh, this is a film that was supposed to be in theaters, and so this may end up being a deal. No, they're looking at it from the perspective of how they usually pay to rent movies. It usually costs like what, $10, $15, maybe $20 at most to rent movies on PVOD. Well, the thing is that this is way cheaper than going to the movies because, like, a family...
But they're not looking at it. You're right. You're correct when you say that. But they're not looking at it from that gaze. That's not how they're looking at it.
People are idiots, Leslie. This is what that case is. I mean...
I guess just my concern is I would want this movie to be successful. And like I mentioned to Peter, it is very unfortunate how the last 3 Disney films that were meant for the theatrical experience ended up having to go to Disney Plus via just dumped on there or Premiere Access, and guess what? They were all leads of color.
Yeah, but they're holding out for Black Widow, which they're adamant. Which like I listened to that meeting and no whispers of Black Widow going to act.
Wasn't Chapek asked though about Black Widow?
Yeah. And he pretty much said no comment.
I have long said that they're looking to see how Raya does. I don't think... In fact, I believe the reported figures for Mulan were disastrous on Premiere Access. And unfortunately, I don't know how better Raya will fare, but it seems as if they're hedging their bets to see how Raya performs, to see how they're going to deal with Black Widow. But
also, if you notice, the Cruella trailer that came out just this morning. Yeah, it's still the morning.
May 28th, right?
May 28th. 2021. And if you notice, like under it says, coming to theaters or something like that. It was left blank.
So it didn't have a coming to theaters.
Didn't have it coming to theaters. No Disney Plus premium access. Nothing. So like I found that really interesting as well.
I can get with Black Widow, it is a lot harder to justify because that is a guaranteed $1 billion film worldwide in a normal circumstance in the theatrical experience.
Mm-hmm.
And putting that on Disney Plus is just burning money to the ground. Like what they did with Wonder Woman 1984, although it seems that the quality of that film was going to kneecap that film's performance regardless, but putting that to the side.
Word of mouth was going to do that anyway.
Right. Cruella might actually make the most sense to just put on Disney Plus and be a huge hit.
AKA Disney's take on Joker.
We'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, we're still not entirely sure how that's going to shape out to be. But any last comments on the whole Disney Plus situation?
Nope.
All right, let's move over to the Golden Globe nominations, which is strange because at this point, the Golden Globe award ceremony usually takes place the second week of January, and we're already like halfway through February, and we're still not even. Which, by the way, if you weren't aware of this, for whatever reason, the entire award season was elongated. I don't know, and this actually I don't think was at all affected by the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. They just decided for whatever reason to have a longer awards season. So it hasn't really started just yet. And the Oscars are going to happen in April, when I think a year ago at this point, Parasite already won Best Picture.
Yeah.
So that gives you a taste.
Hello?
Are you there, Mr. Lira? I'm sorry, I think I lost you for a bit.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. So the Golden Globe nominations are out, and here I'm not going to go through all of them, obviously, but let me just give you a taste of what they are here, right? They have two Best Picture categories. They have drama, and they also have comedy and musical. So for Best Picture drama, I have Mank, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, which we mentioned before, The Father, and The Trial of Chicago 7. Those five, keep an ear out for those. They're going to come up pretty frequently as we go through the lists. For Best Picture Comedy and Musical, we have The Prom, Music, Palm Springs, yay, Hamilton, and Borat's subsequent movie film. Yeah. Really interesting group of nominations right there. What's really interesting, though, is Best Director. And this is what makes it interesting. For the first time that I can recall, maybe even ever, the majority of the 5 directors nominated are women. 3 women were nominated for Best Director here.
Which Alexis is going to pan over here, obviously, because...
Oh, yeah. She hates women. Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. David Fincher for Mank. Regina King for One Night in Miami. Aaron Sorkin for The Trial of Chicago 7. And Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. It's really interesting. To be fair, though, to push back, a lot of people were really pissed off at the Best Picture drama race that I just listed off, because none of the black stories were included in Best Picture. There are several of those movies, and they weren't included in the Best Picture race.
To
not
me,
the best look.
It's not the best look, but to me, like, it's not about like. I don't want to. I'm trying to tread my words carefully.
That shouldn't matter as much as the quality of the film.
Films. Yeah, like.
But again, we're talking about the Globes.
Diversity.
We're talking about the Globes.
I know, but
and they don't. I was gonna. My point was, we're talking about the Globes, and at a certain point, we have to understand that with any of these award shows, it never really seems to be about what's the best of the best. It's about who they like the best. It's about who's the most popular people involved in the project.
Well, so is the Oscars.
Yes.
So, there's no really big difference there. But the thing is that, you know, I don't view him like, oh, this one is the most diverse film, let me nominate this one. It's more like, oh, damn, that was a damn good film, let me nominate this one, you know. So
that's not the most important thing, obviously, at least. But I also I see the point about that particular critique. I would just say that it is a huge step forward to have 3 women nominated for Best Director.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
That is big.
That's huge. It's huge.
Because usually we only have one woman on the ballot.
If that.
Yeah. Like Greta Gerwig and, those kind of names.
Catherine Bigelow was I think only Catherine Bigelow and Greta Gerwig were like the last women that were included in the Oscar ballot. And I think there's a legitimate opportunity here for 3 to go at the Oscars. Chloe Zhao, I hope Emerald Fennell, and maybe some others as well, like Regina King. Who knows? For Best Television Series Drama, the nominees were The Crown, Lovecraft Country, Ozark, Ratched, and The Mandalorian. Slit my wrists. For Best Television Series Comedy, Emily in Paris, The Flight Attendant with Kaylee Cuoco on HBO Max. That's interesting. The Great, a show that's called The Great. Schitt's Creek. That's it, Schitt's Creek. And Ted Lasso from Apple TV Plus. And then here are some other nominees that I particularly liked. I was happy to see Anthony Hopkins get in for Best Actor. I was happy to see Andy Samberg get in for Best Actor Comedy for Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Sacha Baron Cohen from Borat. I was happy to see that.
My wife.
Maria Bakalova, I hope wins, and I think she's going to win the Globe for Borat 2. I don't know if have you seen Borat 2?
No, actually.
You need to. It's really good.
Okay.
It's really good. I've never laughed so hard. It's been so long.
Okay, before you watch
great.
2, did you watch 1?
You don't need to watch 1. You don't need to watch 1.
No, because I seen 1. I saw the first one. So I'm just asking, did you happen to watch the first one?
I don't remember. No. I just watched Borat 2.
Okay.
Other nominations, The Crown swept with multiple actors getting in. Josh O'Connor for Best Actor, Olivia Colman, Emma Corrin, Helena Bonham Carter, and Gillian Anderson all got in for Best Actress and Supporting Actress. All of them also, by the way, most of them also got repeat nominations for the Screen Actors Guild. So it's a very, very, very popular season this year. Also, Schitt's Creek is back. All 4 actors, Catherine O'Hara, Dan Levy, Eugene Levy, and Annie Murphy, back in their respective categories. So we'll see if they sweep yet again. Best animated nominations for both Onward and Soul. So there's that. There's a film I'm interested in seeing called Wolfwalkers. It was included on the list, streaming right now on Apple TV Plus. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but that's definitely on my radar. Okay. And then the SAG nominations are out. I'll just mention the big category. That is their version of Best Picture, and that is the outstanding performance by a cast in the motion picture. And the nominees were Da 5 Bloods, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Minari, One Night in My... Well, Minari, by the way, with Steven Yeun. It's actually going to be on... I believe it's going to be dropping on Prime on the 26th. It is getting a lot of buzz, and a lot of people are really passionate about that film. Steven Yeun might actually get in for Best Actor at the Academy Awards, so keep an eye out for that film. One Night in Miami and The Trial of Chicago 7.
Okay.
Now, let's move on to the final of the big three, which is the Critics' Choice nominations. And again, I'll list off the nominations for Best Picture, and you may see some repeat names here. The nominees were Da 5 Bloods, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, Minari, News of the World, Nomadland, One Night in Miami, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of Chicago 7. Kyle, do any of these movies catch your interest? Have you heard of many of these movies?
Yeah, I've heard of them. I mean, it doesn't surprise me because like this has been like in the running for, you know, all these titles, like, you know, The Trial of the Chicago 7 and what have
Da
you.
5 Bloods.
Yeah, have been like, you know, in the circulation of like awards of some kind, of that kind of caliber with all that. So like, it doesn't surprise me one bit. I still have yet to see most of them, but I have until April, right?
Yes.
So,
and thankfully, most of these are going to be on streaming.
Thank God. Cause
yeah, let me just go, like, if you want to see Da 5 Bloods is on Netflix, Ma Rainey is on Netflix, Mank is on Netflix, Minari will be on Prime, News of the World is PVOD, you have to rent that one, Nomadland is actually going to go on Hulu this Friday, One Night in Miami is on Prime, Promising Young Woman is available to rent on PVOD. Sound of Metal is on Prime, and Trial of Chicago 7 is on Netflix.
A movie that I'm really interested in seeing, it's not on there, is Judas and the Black Messiah.
A lot of people have been talking about why that movie isn't included here.
I think there's like a big like stickler on like people saying that the movie is too angry.
Let me tell you this. Peter had a really great observation a few years ago in regards to Spike Lee's movie Black Klansman, and it not doing as well as a movie like Green Book, which ended up winning Best Picture. And that is that Peter's observation was that perhaps Black Klansman was too militant for the average Academy voter. Like, it may have been pushing the envelope too much, which is weird because, okay, that's a strange reason to not respond to a movie.
It didn't make me feel good.
Yeah, and Judas and the Black Messiah, which I haven't seen, but I will see, and is one that Peter is excited for to see as well, definitely looks like that variety of, like, maybe it's too much in your face, which I don't understand. Well, there are a lot of things I really don't understand about the Academy, it seems like, but...
Well, movies need to, you know, push that envelope. You know, not every movie needs to be a good... you know, feel good. I mean, it's like why, like, today, like, even though, like, I like it, you like it, currently The Help is very dated.
Yeah.
In terms of its,
yeah.
In terms of its feeling. But also, you got to think about, like, this. The film was made under the Obama the film was made under the Obama administration, so it kind of helped it feel a little bit better, and then we went right into white supremacy territory fairly soon. So like it doesn't it's age in terms of like the way that these sort of things are treated. So I don't know. But it kind of needs to be in your face. Like, some of these movies need to kind of be in your face. A lot of movies need to challenge the way you politically think. You know,
it's weird how, like, we're having a conversation about how the Academy Awards needs to be okay with movies that push the envelope. We usually have this discussion in terms of people, the general audience often balks at films that are experimental or too much in your face. But we're talking about the people who are supposed to represent, like, the top of the top in terms of this industry, and yet they often act like they themselves... they act like they're better than, like, the general audience, when in fact they are kind of worse, because they're supposed to have, like, these are the official people. They have the power to decree what is, like, the film of the year, but they have a lot of strange tendencies. Let me just give you an example. I was listening to a podcast on Gold Derby, and let me just tell you some things that I heard on that podcast that were really beyond the pale. Glenn Close lost an Academy Award a few years back to Olivia Colman because her movie was called The Wife, and a lot of men were not interested in watching a movie called The Wife in the Academy.
I need a moment. Hold on. I'm gonna get some fresh air, and then we'll come back. And are you fucking stupid? Jeez Louise.
I'm being serious, man. I'm being serious. And Peter and I did a show a few years back called, it was titled The Fault in Our Stars, because the whole show was meant to be a criticism of a lot of these reported tendencies of Academy voters, right? Let me tell you something else here. And this is legitimately jaw-dropping from what I heard of that podcast. This is when they were talking about Chadwick Boseman and his chances of winning Best Actor for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Tim Gray of Variety quoted what an Academy voter told him about whether or not Chadwick Boseman would win. And this is what this voter said. Mm-hmm. With all due respect, he's dead. He doesn't need it. I'm going to vote for somebody who's alive. With all due respect, he's dead. He doesn't need it. I'm going to vote for somebody who's alive, quote unquote.
To quote The Good Place, holy forking shirt. You guys sure didn't have that that mindset when it came to frickin' Heath Ledger after he performed as the Joker in Dark Knight. Is this a race thing, Academy? What's going on here?
It's no secret that oftentimes the Academy themselves are pressured, if not bullied or shamed, into making up for horrendous decisions. Many suspect in large part why Argo won Best Picture at the Academy Awards was because they omitted Ben Affleck from Best Director that year.
Then in that case, A Star Is Born should have won in 2018.
Well, remember, didn't I tell you that Bradley Cooper was not included in the Best Director nominations because the directors branch are very threatened by actors that try to be directors.
This is so fucking high school.
Won't You Be My Neighbor was not included in large part because there was animosity from the direct documentary branch of the Academy because it dared to be a box office hit. This is the logic, people, that these voters use.
What crack pipe are they smoking? And can I have some?
Did I ever tell you this story that I think it was the year where Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and what was it? Infinity War came out. The visual effects branch, they were having their presentation to look at the VFX reels to see who they would nominate for Best Visual Effects. Evidently, there was a miscommunication in which half of the audience of the VFX branch of the Academy ended up getting up for a bathroom break in the middle of Jurassic World's presentation. So they missed out on that movie or watching the VFX
But here's the
reels.
thing, they should know about the special effects because they should have seen the movie.
They don't watch the movies. They don't watch all the movies.
If I were an Academy Award person getting free screeners to see these movies, you bet your fucking ass I'd be sitting my ass down and watching these movies. This is the kind of hierarchy, 1% privilege that we're talking about. I'm fuck Wall Street and all that stuff, in terms of like that conversation and stocks and all that stuff that get people pissed about the 1%. This is what gets me pissed about the 1% because of that shit. Do they not know the privilege they have to see these movies firsthand? Like, it's so insane that they're not watching these movies because they literally mail these movies to you. They literally give you a code so you can watch it on your TV for you,
And even then, you're still invited to big movie premieres that the studios themselves put on with the money they spent on their marketing campaign for the awards push. So, like, they have many different options. And yet they still don't watch the films.
On Roku, there's a specific app for these people. Mm-hmm. It's called the FYC, for your consideration. And I downloaded it just to see how I could, how it works and all that stuff.
You couldn't hack it into it?
I couldn't hack into it because you have to have the code. You have to have a code, or your ID number.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, so this is how it works. If I had that fucking access, I would have already seen these fucking movies. I would have seen Nomadland because I'm interested in seeing that movie. I would have been able to see all these other movies that, are in contention. But I just don't have immediate access to all that. It's right there on your fingertips, magically there, and yet you don't use it. This is utmost 1% hierarchy of the political bullshit that goes on behind the scenes of the Academy Awards, and that pisses me off because, like, it's not even adhering to the idea of art. It's more screaming out to the interest of, I don't know, drinking highballs at the fucking after party, that you're more interested. I have no idea, but this is maddening. It needs to stop. We need to take it over. We need to march on. What is it? Where do the Academy people, the Kodak Theater?
Yeah, it is the worst kept secret in Hollywood that the Academy Award voters do not really watch all the screeners that they're handed, and that's kind of a crime. I feel it should be a crime. It's unfair in many ways, and I think that in large part you end up getting overall the same kind of movies nominated every single year. Like Peter actually made a bold prediction the other day. He told me that he feels
he should really stop with those because they also often it comes true. Like I was telling you the other day, we were talking about the whole Marcus and McFeely kind of thing, and I was like, he said a couple of years ago, in the last MCU movie in Avengers Endgame, before Avengers Endgame was a thing, that Tony Stark makes the grand sacrifice and says, "I am Iron Man." So really, Peter kind of needs to stop because or put this to good use, because his freaking abilities are fucking unnatural, man.
Yeah, that happens quite a bit. Nevertheless, of course, though, he predicts that the Trial of Chicago 7 will end up winning Best Picture. Then again, to be fair, the current experts at Gold Derby have Nomadland winning Best Picture. So that's where the race is right now with everything.
I think it could be Trial of the Chicago 7, because like right now a lot.
That's the most Oscar movie ever made. Like, have you seen the movie? If you watch the movie, it's good. By the way, it's good Oscar bait, but it is Oscar bait if there ever was anything. But Aaron Sorkin makes great movies that you are entertaining to watch, but it's definitely a movie that's up their alley, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Which ultimately was why we were all so shocked that Parasite won Best Picture, because that's not really a movie they tend to go for. Or The Shape of Water, quite frankly. Those are really out there choices for them to award Best Picture.
They'll go for the shocker.
But yeah, I saw your face drop when I read that quote, like, damn, whoever that person is, like, holy shit. Chadwick Boseman, with all due respect, he's dead. He doesn't need it. I'm going to vote for somebody who's alive. Like, wow.
So what's the qualifications of winning an Oscar? Being alive.
Didn't that sound Trumpian though? Like I like people who are alive.
It didn't sound Trumpian. It had Trumpian logic for sure. But it's what? I'll be back once again. I need a break.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move off this and let's get into Cruella. The trailer dropped. What the fuck, Kyle? What is this?
Cruella DeVille, she lives in a
fashion society.
What happens is, okay, midway through the movie, right? So what, PETA, I hope you're not listening. In the middle of the movie, she's taking the subway for whatever, she's in England, so the tube. And she gets freaking her ass kicked by Dalmatians, and she kills one, and all of a sudden she has a bloodlust for Dalmatians. I want to see this, and I'm very interested in this movie because, like, this is like kind of the darkest tone Disney has gone for, and I honestly like this. Just fucking like, I'm like, I felt dirty, yet I felt nice watching this. It tickled my fancy, as it were. And it honestly, like, Emma Stone's performance, like, it looks fabulous, and I don't know which way. It is very much Disney's take on, like, a Joker-esque kind of thing. You know, this will be the their king of comedy. But
which, by the way, the King of Comedy is a great movie by Martin Scorsese. Go watch that one.
Who's Martin Scorsese? I only watch Marvel movies. All jokes aside, I'm very interested in this movie. I'm very interested because of the kind of tones that it takes and whatever the fuck the movie is, because how also that shot of her, like, lighting her dress on fire and then it turning into another dress. What the shit? What are you doing? It's fabulous. It's fabulous. I'm very intrigued to see what they do with it. This is like, it feels like this is the Maleficent treatment that should have been done a long time ago, but they're just barely.
Well, let's hope this movie isn't the Maleficent treatment.
No, not in terms of quality, but like what they're trying to go for with whatever. I
was completely caught off guard by what I saw in this trailer. I was not prepared for what this was. I guess to me, I had long written this project off because, as I've mentioned repeatedly, and I think to an extent, so are you in a little bit of this field as well. Like my faith, I've kind of lost all faith in live action movies from Disney, and this is technically not a remake, but still the
IP.
If you look at, yeah, but Disney hasn't made a great live action movie in quite some time, so like that was partly why I was so like pessimistic on this.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they released like a still image, I think of last year, and I wasn't, really enthused by it. So, but this is kind of crazy, and it almost looked like, I hope to God the movie that is in those trailers is the movie they actually made. And if it is, dear God, did Alan Horn actually let them make a real movie?
It's great. It showed a lot of restraint for them not to have a creepy or like dark version of the Cruella de Vil song playing in the background of that trailer. Like Lana Del Rey, like, I know. Or like, you could imagine, if no evil thing scares you, no evil thing will, and you could easily had that, but it was absent, and I was just like, I was expecting that to be in there.
But you're right, it didn't look like a family-friendly Disney movie.
No, it doesn't. It looked like a freaking Devil Wears Prada meets Joker meets different things and different vibes, and I'm like, this might actually kick ass. I don't know how good it's
I was
be.
thinking to myself the entire time watching the trailer, is this actually good? Just like being seemingly just caught off guard. And if it is, look, I love Emma Stone. And I knew that she was a part of this for quite some time. But I was never really worried about her performance. If anything, the trailer really showed that she's going to be great. As this character. Emma Thompson looks good in this as well. Both Emma Stone and Emma Thompson are in this movie.
Which I had no idea she was going to be in this movie.
Me neither. No.
And she didn't look like Emma Thompson either in the trailer. She looked completely different. No, she
doesn't. Yeah. But here's the part where I think that there is some hope for this movie being good. So I didn't know that this film was written by the team that wrote The Favorite, the Academy Award-winning movie The Favorite, and the director of I, Tonya, the Margot Robbie film, the Oscar-nominated Margot Robbie film.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So it looks quality. The Favorite was one of my favorite movies of what year was it? 2019?
2018, I think.
2018. Fantastic movie. I don't know if you've seen it already.
I have not, but everybody loves it. I think Peter loved it a lot.
It was his number 2 of the year.
Yeah.
It's so freaking like twisted and demented, and it looks like we're gonna get that in Cruella. It's a cruel twist of fate that this is the movie that I'm like, wow, holy shit.
I know, right? I didn't see it coming. And again, let's address a little bit of the controversy, because there are comparisons to Joker. I see it. People seem to be offended that for whatever reason this seems to be ripping off the Joker. I have to ask this question. So the Joker movie was released in 2019. It was primarily shot in 2018. I believe this Cruella film had long since been filmed, right? Like this has been in development for quite some time.
The first image of Cruella came out in 2018 during D23.
You mean 2017?
2017, yeah.
Really? 2017?
2017. They're like, Cruella de Vil is coming with Emma Stone. So many Emmas.
I know.
and they showed the first like picture, the picture that you saw, you know, in the investors meeting and all that stuff. Like I've seen that image for quite a while now, and so I was like one day I was just like, okay, so there's a bunch of live action movies coming out soon. Cruella, oh, that movie's still happening.
Yeah.
I hope we get it this year, because like,
Yeah, for the longest time, that was one of those films that we had heard about, but we heard no movement on, no progress on. Yeah, honestly, I just hope it's good. We need some good movies. We just need something good to come out of that studio, you know, especially the live action department.
I hope that we get to see it on the desired date.
I think, well, the desired date, I don't know. Maybe Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule out them like putting this straight to Disney Plus.
Yeah, because I want to see. I want to fucking see this movie. I'm fucking excited. It looks.
Yeah.
This is most like artistically driven kind of remake film ever. I mean,
but this is not a remake, is it? It's
not
just
a remake,
an original
but like
story.
a part of like the IP that they're retreading,
right.
You know, of the original animated classics. Also, damn, Emma Stone could serve some looks. Yeah,
she sounds great. You know, honestly, like the laugh was great as well. I'm all for it. I hope it turns out great.
What's the expression? I am woman, hear me roar.
And people were saying that they ripped that off from Batman Returns, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman character.
Yeah, that's been an expression for like ever.
Yeah, I know. But here's the thing, though. Have you noticed this trend? Grace Randolph actually pointed this out. So, but it is true. Think of Wonder Woman 1984. Think of Mulan, and then also think of Birds of Prey. All of those movies had very divisive, mixed, aggressive reactions for different reasons. But the unifying theme among them is that they're all female-led projects. In an alternate reality, when Corona didn't happen, those were supposed to be the biggest releases of the year. And I often fear what a year that would have been like, again, with no COVID, those movies being released, and then just backlash after backlash. Because people, again, were very angry for whatever, like at the Cruella trailer. And I'm like, what is there to be angry about in this trailer? Is it because it's a female-led project? Like, what's going on here?
Probably. It's most likely the reason. It's just people want to make a think piece to justify the women hate, but that's just where it's coming from. It's just and especially from some women that were like, "This is the movie that you're giving us." I think it stems from women. I think it stems from internalized misogyny. For men, it's just straight up misogyny. So I don't know. It's a really complicated subject, I think. But I think it's just a lot of I think the world just hates seeing her get it, you know. So
all right.
So like Birds of Prey, it was just a post breakup story of a woman thriving post breakup, you know, and finding friends. Mulan, despite all its flaws and all that stuff, it's about a woman being true to her heart, you know. Wonder Woman, I haven't seen it, don't care. But I mean, it's just, I don't know, misogyny. That's all I could say.
It's unfortunate. Let's go ahead and move on to the next trailer to talk about, the Snyder Cut, which is coming out March 17th. What do you make of that new trailer?
like I said about Cruella, we do live in a society.
Oh my god. I don't know if I can't say with a straight face if that was intended to be a joke on the part of Zack Snyder or he just unironically put that in there.
I think maybe, like, this is the thing though. I think that he thought in his original idea for Justice League, I think he originally did have it in there, because I could picture Zack Snyder going to this movie and going like, oh, the Joker saying this will be so badass, wouldn't it? And like, you get that, like, the most memed thing about the Joker happened in the trailer, which is fucking hilarious. I'm very disappointed that we did not get a Red Band trailer of this, in which we hear Batman say "fuck."
This is supposed to be rated R.
Yeah, it's an R-rated movie.
4-hour movie.
I mean, when I first watched it, I watched it on my laptop, and I had to turn up the brightness to see it, but it was. I'm pretty much gonna watch the same movie that I got like back when Justice League came out, but I guess like more focused. I guess.
I'm curious to see how the CGI is gonna look at the end of the day, because some of the shots looked as if it was CGI layered on top of already existing CGI. Some of the shots, anyway.
You put a makeup on a pig, and it's still gonna be a pig.
Yeah. I mean, I just hope it'll be funny. And then we can, like, I don't know.
Make fun of it.
Watch it, right? Or some variety of
Jared
that.
Leto being like, we live in a society. Isn't that right, Batman?
Yeah. So, Rian Johnson's in the news again.
You mean Ruin Johnson?
Yeah, my God. He was in the news again. He gave a recent interview, seemingly confirming that he's still going to be writing and directing the Star Wars movie, that he's been rumored or confirmed to do so for like years at this point. Except no one really believes it, that that's actually happening. Whether or not I believe it, I have a problem with a lot of people. I mentioned this in WandaVision, so I might as well mention this again. I do take time to watch a lot of how the media outlets cover these stories, and I particularly have, I end up having some issue in terms of the common thing that's being said by these people, in particular, Campia's outlet and Fandom's outlet, both of which seemingly were saying that in one scenario, or one of them was saying, why would Rian Johnson want to be a part of this any longer? With how he was treated and everything. Which, fair, but again, that doesn't really seem to bother Rian Johnson at all, but there it is. Another person saying, why would Lucasfilm want to bring Rian Johnson back to divide the fans even further? And it reminds me about a year ago of how people were trying to sling mud at Bernie Sanders for his Twitter followers. They were saying that because some of his Twitter followers were toxic, he himself was a toxic person. And this kind of rings the same way when they're saying that, they were saying that Bernie was divisive. Now they're saying Rian Johnson is divisive. So the solution is to ensure he no longer directs a blockbuster, that he no longer directs a Star Wars movie. I find that kind of disgusting. Why are we putting the blame on him? It's not his fault that the Star Wars fans have a pretty toxic rat's nest that follow him around. We're going to talk about Lucasfilm in a bit, about how they handle Gina Carano. Let's be real. There's still no excuse how they failed to defend John Boyega and Kelly Marie Tran from some of these Star Wars fans. There's still no excuse for how they did Kelly Marie Tran dirty in that movie, Episode 9.
In terms of business models, I think Marvel, with the exception of James Gunn, is doing better than what they're doing here. But with Rian Johnson, like he had a quote that I think is perfect and sums up what his idea of Star Wars is. And he said, George Lucas didn't, sit down and think, what do the fans want? He simply told the story that he wanted to tell. And, better for worse, when the prequels came around and rolled around in whatever quality that was, whatever. The thing I appreciate and respect about the prequels is that was his singular vision. And that is what I got from The Last Jedi. It is the most George Lucasian thing I've seen since the first Star Wars, and I commend that. And the thing about this is that whether you like Last Jedi or not, is that this is giving an artist, an auteur, a voice to be heard in the Star Wars, community in terms of how what a movie is made and whatever. I think that with him having his own trilogy to play around with, I think it leaves, because there are people who are giving him the benefit. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. There are people who are giving him the benefit of the doubt, because the thing is that it's not going to be an episodic, or at least it's not looking like it's going to be an episodic. And I think that a lot of people are giving him more benefit of the doubt because of that. Because like with the episodic, a lot of people have like expectations of what an episodic has, and tied in with the general lore of Star Wars. There you go, I said it. But with his own trilogy, he could take it to another level of the galaxy that we've not seen before, and make it something completely his own, and for people to be like, oh, okay, this is where his Star Wars comes into play, and give him more credit on that. So, but again, I looked at, all the Twitter comments on like when Entertainment Weekly, I think, came out with their issue, like Rian Johnson's trilogy might be coming up, and I made the fatal mistake of looking at the comments of what people are saying, and all I saw were boo, and he fucked up Star Wars once, now he's getting 3 more tries to fuck it up again, kind of thing. And I see like these comments that are fucking ridiculous, and I realize how, like, and I remember immediately how toxic the Phantom Menace is, and it's really disheartening, because I personally, I love Rian Johnson. I love what he does. I love Knives Out. I love, I really love, not really love, I like Looper, and I really love Star Wars The Last Jedi. There's a reason why it's one of the biggest posters on my wall. But I think it's a shame that artists, really, regardless, if Zack Snyder was hired to do a Star Wars movie, or if Tommy Wiseau, let me go that stretch, was hired to do a Star Wars movie, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt, because I want to see what these different artists' take on Star Wars is. Isn't that more fascinating than just getting rehashed bullshit? Like, more people should be giving this the benefit of the doubt, and a lot of people are like dismissing it entirely because of the whole reception of Last Jedi, which The Last Jedi, last time I checked, was really high on Metacritic, and it's one of these.
The second highest grossing Star Wars movie of the Disney Star Wars era.
Yeah. So like I find it really bizarre that this conversation is still going on, and yeah.
It pisses me off, quite frankly, because I think you and I are of the same mind that, Rian Johnson should come back and he should make his movie in Star Wars. And look, let's be real. This is a couple of different hypocrisies here and there. This is not an episodic movie. This is an offshoot. So is Patty Jenkins' movie. So is Taika Waititi's movie, and then so is the Disney Plus verse of the Mandalorian spin-off shows and everything. Here's my thing. Literally everything that was announced at that Disney Plus presentation with Star Wars is concerned was more or less the same kind of flavor or variety. Like there's a particular part of fans that are getting overindulged and over catered to. And there's some fans of the sequels like you and I who feel ostracized lately by the latest announcements by Lucasfilm. We just talked on the Fantasy Fair a few weeks ago about how some of these sequel trilogy characters might be going away from the Galaxy's Edge. And it just feels like they're trying to take away everything from that era and then just, ignoring that it ever existed. And that makes me feel bad. And so like with Disney Plus, which by the way, no one's talking about this, but like there's also a possibility Ryan's movie could go on Disney Plus, or do the theatrical thing. But what's the harm? Like Patty Jenkins is getting her own movie, Taika's getting his own movie. Like what is the harm with different flavors of Star Wars? Isn't that where this next era of Star Wars should be?
It all stems from validation. If you give Rian Johnson his own trilogy, it's only validating The Last Jedi. That's all it is.
We live in a world where Zack Snyder...
We live in a society.
Oh, God. We live in a society in which Zack Snyder got to finish his trilogy. And he got to finish his version of Justice League years after it was first released. If he can... And by the way, that is a very niche audience. It's by no means a majority or the mainstream that even asked for this Snyder Cut. But he got it. So why can't us Rian Johnson fans get his Star Wars movie? Because let me tell you this. Here's the double standard. And this is going to piss a lot of people off. But there is a narrative that continuously wins. The loudest, most toxic voices keep winning. The Star Wars fans ended up doing that with the projects that were announced, unfortunately. And again, not to say that most Star Wars fans are toxic, but the toxic element are the loudest voices, and they seemingly keep getting what they want. Similarly, the Snyder cult, they got their Snyder Cut.
They got their way.
Why do these groups keep getting victories out of these studios?
Victory, you say? I don't know. There's no...
Did you see a tweet? This is really disgusting. There was a tweet by one cult member of the Snyder cult that flat out said that Disney killed Zack Snyder's daughter. Yeah.
I need a break. I need another break. I need to get some fresh air and walk and think about life. And how are you, Alexis?
I am doing good. You know what? I love Rian Johnson. I have to think there's a reason why he keeps saying that he's doing this movie, because I feel like if this was shelved or canceled, why wouldn't they already say it? What's there to... Why do they keep this story alive?
Yeah, and especially if they're catering to a certain type of group.
Yeah, I don't get it. So I have to believe on some level, Ryan's still wanting to do this. He's still working on this. At the moment, he's doing Knives Out, too.
He's doing... Right now, I honestly think that he's doing a better thing.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I love to see his trilogy of films...
But I also think Star Wars needs him, though.
Yeah.
Star Wars needs a voice like him to push it forward. Because I feel like a lot of what Favreau and Filoni, with all due respect to what they offer, it's not pushing anything forward. It's just giving us more of the same. We need something new in this universe.
Help us,
Rian
Rian
can
Johnson.
give us that new.
You're our only hope.
Oh my god! I think we named an episode of the of our podcast that once. Help me, Rian Johnson. You're our only hope.
Clever. I think. Yeah.
But it wasn't as good as your other title when Trevorrow was fired and you titled it "Put Trevorrow in the cargo hold."
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. Yeah. Right now he's working on a murder.
There's been a murder.
I do declare. But yeah, I want to see it, and I hope it gets made. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be made. I mean, Last Jedi made them a buttload of money, and money talks in this industry. So Rian Johnson's trilogy is gonna be made.
And no one's bringing up the possibility that this also could be no one ever said Star Wars movies can't go on Disney Plus. I mean, they have a whole bunch of Star Wars shows that they're making on Disney Plus. So, worst comes to worst, there's that option as well.
This is the first Star Wars trilogy to ever, not only that, but big tentpole trilogy to be put on a streaming service.
If that would be the case.
That would be huge and history making.
Yeah. So our last story seemingly also involves Lucasfilm. This will be fun. This is a doozy. Oh boy. Gina Carano, who played Cara Dune on The Mandalorian for the first 2 seasons, has been fired from Lucasfilm.
Who?
Before I give you the statement that Lucasfilm gave, and before we get into Kyle and I's thoughts on this matter, let me give you a laundry list of things that Carano did before she got fired. She tweeted demonizing comments against the transgender community by making fun of the importance of pronouns. She never apologized for that. Not really. Perhaps she said in a follow-up tweet that she was sorry that some were offended, but she kept pushing the envelope on that one, so she's not exactly... I don't recall ever having a real apology from that.
It was more like a sorry, not sorry.
Literally. She tweeted conspiracy theories that discouraged the use of masks and mocked the use of vaccines in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. She tweeted claims of voter fraud in the 2020 U.S. election. She tweeted against the use of mail-in ballots in the U.S. presidential election during the time of coronavirus. She tweeted support for the insurrectionists that committed an act of domestic terror to try and overturn the results of the election. And then finally, she tweeted that Republicans in America in 2021 are treated worse, the same or worse than Jews were in the time of the Holocaust in Nazi Germany. That last one was evidently the last straw, to which Lucasfilm ended up releasing a statement that said, Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable.
If John Boyega or Kelly Marie Tran or any of these small demographic groups within the company said anything remotely of this, they would have been fired on the spot. But she continuously, Gina Carano, again, who continuously kept on spewing this misinformation, these hatred, downright
vile,
radical right conspiracies harming groups, and she continuously was under Lucasfilm's wing, which I find completely dismissible. And now I know where Lucasfilm's loyalties align, and it is to these conspirators, and it freaking sucks because I fucking love Star Wars with all my heart. Getting a tattoo of Star Wars pretty soon, just to get it out there.
A tattoo of Cara Dune?
No. Unfortunately, it's the symbol that she wears. Unfortunately, I have no other design concepts whatsoever. But I absolutely, Lucasfilm sucks right now. That's all I could say. It's good, but it's a little bit like too little, too late.
What took them so long? What took them so long? Why was she deserving of so many chances?
I could see somewhere like behind the scenes, maybe they were like, hey, cut it out because,
They were. Let me look. There were reports that indicate Disney reached out 3 separate times to get her to stop. 3 separate times they reached out to her. They even sat down with her in one of these meetings in the last strike where they were like, what are you doing? You need to stop this. And she kept tweeting. They were about to give her her own Disney Plus series. She was going to headline the Rangers of the New Republic. And they were going to announce that last November, but they chose not to because at that point they were already trying to get rid of her because of how she was not getting with the program. She was causing a huge distraction on their part. Carano did not stop tweeting. And what was worse about all of this, she showed no remorse whatsoever for the harm that she was inflicting.
I've said, what I thought about the subject in the Inside Pixar episode of the Fantasy Fair. But I just want everybody to know that I do not condone what Gina Carano says, and I am a big supporter of Lana Parrilla coming in and stepping.
I am as well. Good that you mentioned that the role is being recast. They're not going to kill off the character. Lana Parrilla is amazing. She should come in.
I think the dude so fucking kick ass. I need more Lana Parrilla in my life. It would be phenomenal. I would love it. I would absolutely love Lana Parrilla to come in and kick ass. Imagine seeing Lana Parrilla and Ming-Na Wen on screen together. I think that would be a powerhouse. I would love it. But it's such a shame because there were girls that looked up to her, who looked up to Gina Carano, because
it's just a shame. How stupid is she? She threw all of this away, and she threw it away willingly. She was given so many chances. She was given so many opportunities to, repent for her bad behavior. And for anybody saying about this free speech argument, I don't care if free speech applies to this or not. It does not condone malicious comments. Malicious and disgusting and vile comments. All of the things that she said were inflicting harm to people. Dangerous as well. And she kept doing it. And she willingly threw it away. Who throws away a Disney Plus Star Wars show to go work for Ben Shapiro? What a moron.
Yeah.
What a fucking moron.
I think in her fighting days, I think she knocked a few.
Oh shit!
I think she knocked a few brain cells. Is that
And you know
is that
what?
too
Like,
much to say? Is that
ultimately, this is the right decision, but it also is absurd that it took them this long to fire her because, you know, by the same company, talking about Disney,
they fired Roseanne Barr on the spot.
15 minutes. It took them 15 minutes to fire Roseanne Barr for calling a former Obama aide a monkey, basically.
They fired James Gunn on the spot, which on record he apologized.
He had already apologized,
not once, but twice for the comments.
He had already apologized for those tweets when they fired him. It's just unfair. Like, she was given the opportunity that I'm sure James Gunn would have loved to have.
And say this about the Mandalorian. She's not really. I mean, it's a cool character to have, but not necessary to the structure of the plot of the Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. It's always been about Din and Grogu. So, like, it wasn't a detriment. Having James Gunn fired is a huge detriment to your company because the Guardians, you know, was a huge part of Infinity War, and it's part of, you know, the Guardians Volume 1 and 2 have made a bunch of money for Disney. So
Infinity War and Endgame.
And no other person in the DGA would touch that position, you know, with a 39.5-foot pole.
Remember, they were trying to immediately get Taika to do that movie, and he was like, no, thank you.
He's like, no, that's James Gunn's deal, until they finally said, okay, fine, we'll get him. And then he's like, psych, I'm working with Warner Brothers right now. So I don't know. It's so stupid then all that stuff. I guess looking bad about firing a woman, but yet again they fired Roseanne.
Well, Roseanne was racist and Gina Carano was transphobic. I just feel really bad for the trans community. They really get it the worst. I don't know what it is that they did that they deserve such hatred from some people.
And next to Pedro Pascal, like, imagine the vile that he had to endure while working with her, because like it was announced, I don't know how long it's been like known within his immediate reach, that his sister came out as trans. And I think that's freaking huge. Like, come on. So freaking, but then like it was announced that he was going to star in HBO Max's Last of Us series, which is a big deal. And I think that was like announced immediately after Gina Carano. I think is just like one of those like cherry on top things.
That was funny. That was legitimate. Like, you couldn't have written a better version of that to happen. Of course, since they both star or they used to star in the same show. Mm-hmm. Overall, I just feel bad for the trans community. They get it the worst sometimes. As if J.K. Rowling wasn't bad enough, and she's still, like, Warner Brothers has shown no signs to distance themselves from J.K. Rowling. And it's really unfortunate that every now and then she keeps being brought back up, because I feel like she trots out some of her friends to support her in the news, but there's still been no confirmation about whether or not
Warner Brothers, like, this is where I see where it makes sense, because she has her claws so deep within the Harry Potter franchise, and that's still making a shit ton of money. They're
afraid that she'll walk away and go to Universal and make movies with them.
Yeah, so I could see why Warner Bros. Would be freaking terrified. What power does Gina Carano have?
It's just unfortunate because, at this point, if J.K. Rowling didn't have the power that she has, she would have been canceled a long time ago.
Yeah, so I don't know, and it sucks because I love Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter.
Yeah, many people do as well, but this is a really trying time.
Also, that doesn't make any sense, because like the whole thesis of Harry Potter is acceptance and love.
I know. Yeah.
Like, what the hell? But anyway, I'm done with Gina Carano. I'm tired of hearing that name tired of hearing that name in general, and the more that Lucasfilm distance themselves from that kind of toxic behavior, I think for the better.
I agree with you, and hope that Disney does a better job of addressing problematic talent. Well, I mean, at least in their defense, Disney, at the very least, eventually addresses their problematic talent. WB, I mean, the list goes on and on, from J.K. Rowling to Ezra Miller to Amber Heard to Johnny Depp to, and again, I'm not saying he's problematic because I'm not saying he's guilty of the things he's accused of. I'm just saying that they have a lot of talent that is in some very public messes right now, all over the place. Johnny Depp apparently was fired off Fantastic Beasts, but Amber Heard is still there. A lot of people are questioning that.
Which
so
sucks, because she's as problematic as Depp, if not more. And there's a lot of evidence that back up Johnny Depp's claims of abuse, but yet he was still the one who was outed. I don't know. It's like I used to be on Team Heard.
Were you really? Oh yeah, a long time ago.
I used to be on Team Heard because I was like, oh shit, like I didn't want to believe it, but like believe women, women seem to get like the short end of the stick, and apparently men get the shorter end of the stick in terms of abuse stories like this as well. I mean, that whole thing is like a fucking toxic cat and mouse game that I don't think will ever end. And I think that it seems for right now, Depp's career is over. So I don't know.
Interesting times.
Interesting times.
Well, I think I'm all done here. Kyle, anything else to say?
No. Ooh. Let me close off the show, and I'll let you know why. As I say stuff. Okay. So, as you know, I'm part of a little show called the Fantasy Fair, and on the Fantasy Fair we do Once Upon a Retrospect. So Once Upon a Retrospects are gonna continue in April, when we're covering stuff that we haven't covered yet, like Rescuers, the Aristocats, and Robin Hood, and those are coming out next month in March. It's gonna be Mickey March, so we're gonna bring back Beyond the Ears, and we're gonna cover Phantasmic and other Mickey assortments, as well as cover some of the classic Mickey Mouse shorts like Steamboat Willie and all that stuff. That's all gonna be done in March, so get ready for and plus we need a little bit of more Mickey Mouse in our lives, I think. God, I sound like a cultist. We need a little bit more Jesus in our lives. Yeah. And so also another thing of note, we are on a new platform as well that you could access our podcasts. As of the last week, we are now on iHeartRadio.
Really?
We are on iHeartRadio, yes.
Wow. Let me add that to my notes. That way I don't forget to address that. That's big, Kyle. You've been trying to get on that for a while.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we are officially on iHeartRadio. So everything under the Red Spotlight Network is there. Bond and Beyond. The Fantasy Fair is on there. Red Spotlight Entertainment and To the Table is all on iHeartRadio. So we are there, baby. And so, yeah. And right now I'm trying to, because like, Stitcher won't let me update, the feed, because according to Stitcher, we're still on Wooshka.
The fuck we ain't.
Yeah, the fuck we ain't. So I've been trying to update and all that stuff. So Stitcher, for those who have been like wondering where we've been on Stitcher, it's just because they're being sticklers about like updating and all that stuff. But yeah, the following websites we are on, or platforms. We are on Castbox, our home. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify, TuneIn. We're also on iHeartRadio and YouTube. Whenever the episodes are uploaded onto there. But yeah, they're pretty much the big platforms that you get your podcasts on. We're there. So I made it at a point to, like, when I say everywhere, I mean like the big places.
Everywhere and anywhere, yeah.
Yeah. So and apparently like places that I didn't know our feed was on are there as well. Just because like aggregate like picks up everything that's on the web and just throws it onto their platform. So I think it's I think it's nice. Takes the work out of it. But yeah, we everywhere we listen to podcasts. So the Red Spot Entertainment Network is now on iHeartRadio as of last week. So everyone, if you're iHeartRadio listeners, we are there. I would put us on like Amazon and all that stuff, but I'm pretty sure we've trash talked Amazon a couple of times here on the podcast, so I'm pretty sure we're not.
Who haven't we trash talked?
Yeah. But yeah, we are also. I updated the feed for Google, because Google Music is no longer a thing.
Right.
So we are now officially on Google Podcasts. That's just what they're calling it. So Google Podcasts, that's the thing that we are there on. So just another thing of note. I've been busy.
It seems that way, yeah.
So yeah. So everywhere you listen to podcasts, you could find us, whether it be the podcast I mentioned above. And I'm pretty sure we have a lot of other things on Red Spot Entertainment to cover as well. The 300th show. Let's be sure to listen to that, because it was just a loosey-goosey conversation that we had. WandaVision. For sure on the Fantasy Fair, there's going to be the big WandaVision review. Whenever that is out, March here, you're gonna see some reviews on Kong versus Godzilla. You're gonna see reviews of Raya and the Last Dragon on both platforms, I'm gonna assume. The Zack Snyder I almost called it Snut.
I thought you were gonna say Snyderverse.
The Zack Snyder cut of Zack Snyder's Justice League, as it's being officially called, is gonna be, we're gonna review that and all that good shit and much more under this spotlight. So without further ado, I'm Kyle Lira. With me is Alexis Soto, and as always, stay under the spotlight, everybody. Bye.